Welcome to episode 3 of the Elijah Rising podcast. My name is David Gamboa. I'm the communications director for Elijah Rising, and I'm here with Sam, who many of you probably already know.
You might know me as the girl with the blue hair on the YouTube videos. Yeah, my name is Sam Hernandez. I'm the mobilization director for Elijah Rising. I oversee the social enterprise, or our store, and then I also work with a lot of our incredible volunteers. But yeah, I've been here since like 2013, 2012, something like that.
So this is actually pre-recorded, so this will air in probably 4 weeks. So right now we're in day 2 of quarantine. But we still want to create the podcast to shed light on sexual exploitation because it's still happening no matter what's going on in the world.
Absolutely. And we're being very safe here. We've shut down our offices. We just came in to record. We've shut down our store today, actually. But yeah, we want to talk about this, especially because people really have time to listen. And this is a very complex issue. So that's why we're spending so many episodes on pornography, because it's not just a simple thing to kind of roll out. Yeah,
and really the world's attention is kind of shifted to looking at pornography and the harm that it's creating. Exodus Cry has created a petition that right now has over 500,000 signatures around the world, and it's garnered global attention.
Which, by the way, I don't know if y'all know that this is Exodus Cry putting their neck on the line for this issue, because so many people, on a small scale, on like a really, really small scale, when we spoke out against the robot brothel, me and David wrote that blog in a day, and the amount of great things that came from that, and the great, PR or whatever you want to call it on the issue, we had so much vile hatred spewing, evil, like threats, all kinds of stuff that came at us. So for them, how much recognition this is getting, just remember to keep them in their prayers, because they are really being like the tip of the arrow on something that's really crazy. But it's so important. So thank you, Exodus Cry, for all that you're doing. And so that's why we're wanting to come back and just support.
Yeah. And so in this episode, we really want to bring awareness to the people who are actually in the porn videos. Because we often overlook people that are in porn videos. We're always talking about the producers of porn. We're talking about the people who consume porn from their home. Yeah. But how can we really care for and understand what it's like to be someone who's in the porn industry? And how can we have empathy to share the love of Christ with them?
Absolutely. And it's really difficult. It's really difficult for us, or for me, I don't know if it's difficult for you, when a lot of the people that we are, we're speaking against pornography, there's people in the porn industry that this is their, what they would consider their livelihood. It's how they make money. It's how that they survive. And I think that when we speak out against this system of harm, it feels directly connected to speaking out against the person, which there is, if you are in porn, if you have even webcammed or any of this, there's no judgment on you or what you're doing, or we don't hate you, we don't judge you, and we haven't even walked in your shoes, so we don't know your story. But what we're speaking out against is the system that people are benefiting off of, something that is harming another person. That's what we're speaking out. So yeah, and we want to dive more into that, but I just want to say that we're not trying to come at a place of this, but it is difficult, right? Because we're speaking out against someone's livelihood, and how do we do that while still honoring, recognizing, and hearing with an open mind the person? Because at the end of the day, we've never been in their shoes. So we really try to listen as much as we talk about this as well.
Yeah, and so in this first half of the podcast, we really want to share a story. A guy who is actually in porn reached out to us via phone. He's in the porn industry in another state, found us online. And we kind of want to share, he just began to open up about all kinds of things that he was feeling, things that he experienced, things that were to him very normative in the porn industry, and he didn't really feel safe to talk about it with anyone else. And so he called us on the phone. And so it was really a great honor for us to just listen to him, really. And so we wanted to share with you guys kind of what that discussion looked like.
Yeah, and it was very interesting that we were even recorded it. It was one of those moments where we had been talking about God touching people and reaching people, and like, I want you to know, like, sometimes that we come here and we talk about issues of like anti-pornography, anti-prostitution, this and this, but we are truly, I think, one of the most unoffendable group of people. The way that you can offend us is by harming others, but like, people talking to us and sharing, their story or where they're at doesn't offend us. And so it was really great that he was able to call, and really he went in to the depths of, and trigger warning with some of the things. I don't know what we'll cut in as far as the call goes, but he shared with not only how he got into porn, which he got in by happenstance because he needed a place to stay.
Yeah, him and his girlfriend, they were just going to a wedding in another state and needed extra money
Yep.
with the travel and the staying expense,
Yeah.
and just got connected with a person who he was like, this person seemed kind of shady, but they needed the money, and it was just doing a basic like model photo shoot.
Yeah, and he said as soon as it started, it began the racism, the objectification became really, really apparent very, very quickly. And this thing that was just like, okay, all of a sudden, we're taking pictures one day, and then it's like all these jobs came up. So it was like they were taking pictures one day, and then all of a sudden they have all these jobs. And there's this article that was done in, I'll send you the link to make sure you can put it in the notes.
Yeah.
There was this article done in, I believe it was in Sweden, with all these different porn actors. And one thing that one person who was in the live said, she said, I wish that they would tell you what's coming next, because all of a sudden you go to one photo shoot, an entire website is made of your body, and then money's just pouring in, which is like kind of that first love bombing of like all this excitement. And then later in that article, they attributed a lot of the mental, they said, the mental stress of then that happening, and then all of a sudden jobs going away, and then you're desperate and you're willing to do worse and worse because you had this moment where it was like good and quote unquote easy. And then after that, it becomes like you're not good enough, you're not young enough, you're not this enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just like this, he
And
said.
really, that's how trafficking works. It's just the exploitation of a vulnerability. And in this case, they were well off, but there was that one vulnerability of not being able to
Yep,
purchase.
not have a place to stay
Yeah.
in this other state.
And he said it was like he felt like he had just made a wrong decision once he was in it, in the porn industry. He just felt like, well, I made this choice, and this is the punishment for my choice that I made.
Yeah, and the main issue he called was he was struggling with anxiety, which I have so much anxiety for different reasons. That's something I've battled for years, but he was saying that the anxiety never started until he was in the life, and it was because he was always sick. He was always getting different STDs here and there and back and forth, and always on medication and always getting better. And he woke up with this intense dread that like, oh my gosh, something else is going to happen. I'm going to have something else.
Yeah, and I've never really experienced that until now. I think we're all sort of feeling like this understanding of how important our health is and how really life is so just fragile.
We're one phone call away. Yeah.
Yeah, with COVID-19 and all that's happening around the world. Here this guy was calling us, and he was saying he feared for his life every day. He feared for his health. He didn't, there was multiple diseases that he experienced while in the porn industry.
Yeah.
And he kept telling us that people would reach out to them with probably good means. They probably meant well, but at the same time, they were just normalizing these things, saying, well, this is just going to happen to your body, and your body will adjust to these things.
He kept saying that people were like, your body will get used to it. Your body will get used to it. But the type of things that he was mentioning, again, it's kind of crass, and we discussed whether or not we should say it, but he was talking about people's feces, people's urine, vomit, different type of bodily fluids, all being put on them as part of these porn scenes, which we know a lot of porn is shows what we would consider like deviant or different sexual behavior, such as those kind of things. And I mean, anyway, I won't speak to how I feel about that, but just from a science level, like that is exposing you to all kinds of sicknesses. And he was saying they test weekly, but then he said the amount of partners you have from one week to the next, where there's no way to control the amount of diseases that you're getting or the infections that you're getting,
Yeah.
which is no shame to that person. It's just, I mean, what would OSHA say? Like, it's not physically safe.
Yeah, and he was saying, the main tests are focused on STDs and STIs, but there's very little resources in regards to mental health. The symptoms that he was experiencing was panic, anxiety. He would wake up in the middle of the night with panic attacks, not being able to sleep, basically have this fear of like he's going to die all throughout the day.
Yeah, and our response to that was, I didn't try to sit and tell him that he was wrong for being in the industry. I didn't sit and try to tell him like, hey, you need to get out as soon as you can, because I don't think that's what his heart needed. I don't think that's what anyone's heart needs, is to be like, this is how you fix all your problems, because that's not the way. But instead, we just said, hey, what do you want? Do you want resources? Do you want someone just to talk to? And, he mentioned he didn't want anything religious, but I did ask his permission. I said, hey, can I just pray for you? And I think that's when it kind of shifted to something really special.
Yeah.
We're a faith-based organization, and are we ready to talk about that? Can I move to that?
Yeah, we can.
You hear all this horrible stuff, and you hear a situation that you can't relate to. So, sometimes I talk too much, and I'm like, just shut up and just pray. So I said, hey, can I pray for you? He was like, absolutely. And so I just asked God to give me words, to give me something to say. And I really, all of a sudden in my heart, just felt this overwhelming love of God, and the overwhelming love of God and excitement for his creative dreams.
And I'll preface it to say this was a cool moment because during our staff prayer, we had been praying, Lord, give us words of knowledge to really break through to people's hearts.
Oh my gosh.
In a way that, we couldn't naturally do on our own means. And that's why we actually recorded the call, because it was so out of the blue. It was after we had been praying for like these random encounters with people that we don't know, and the Lord giving us the ability to take a risk and speak out. And so that's why we were recording the call, and what happened was very cool.
Yeah, because I think us out of most of the staff probably are the most like giddy little kids about words of knowledge, because I just don't feel like I'm not that like great, special, like spiritual person. I mean, I don't know. I don't have faith in me. I have faith in God, and I just trust, and I'll pray for someone, and I hear something or I get an impression. I kind of ask the Lord, like, is that for me to pray, or do I release? And if I feel like this okayness to release it, I will. And I just said some simple stuff. Like, it was nothing earth shaking. Just, I feel like you have these dreams. I feel like this, and this. And his response was like so sweet and cool.
Yeah, and really he kept stuttering because he was like, oh my gosh, I'm like speechless. I don't even know what to say. It was like, he said, it was like you just read all the thoughts that were in my mind.
Yeah. And I get like because, sorry, I'm not even speaking straight. I get so excited about that because a lot of times whether you sitting at home on your computer, they might think, I'm like talking about y'all like you're not. They might think that we're here to like, we have to stop all the sin because that makes us feel better. Or we have to stop all the pervert. Like, that's not the thing. We want to stop harm, and we want to see people's lives have an opportunity for choices, have an opportunity for hope, and to feel the love of God. And so it was such like a special moment just to say, look, I don't know what your next steps are going to be. I can't tell that to you, but I'm so excited that God can show you that he cares about you, that he loves you. And it was so awesome. And we see that happen all the time. Concerts on the street, you just meet somebody and God gives you a word for them, and it can be really special.
Yeah, and as far as I know, this person is still in the porn industry. Yeah. But it's these little breakthroughs that we are able to witness. And that's what it's important. I hate the question people always ask, well, how many people have you saved or rescued? And
Yeah.
that's really not the point. Our point is to just love people where they're at.
Yes. And provide off ramps for people who feel like there's no other way out. Provide off ramps, provide opportunity. And in the stages of change, which I don't know if you can throw up a stages of change graphic, what keeps people in the stages of change is they're only in their own environment that is just reaffirming the lies about people's worth, about, are they able to get out? Are they smart enough? Are they strong enough to have another job? Will they have the support they need? And every time that we can come and interrupt that cycle to say, you are special, you are strong, we believe in you, is an opportunity to encourage that exit if that's what they choose to do. Because it's important. I think it's just so important too that we have opportunities to hear from people that are in the life that aren't leaving, that are in different places. Because if we just sit in our own bubble of anti-trafficking, anti-pornography, anti-sex trafficking, we're not hearing from survivors, people who are in the life, people who are there, and see where can we help and where can we work together, then we're in an echo chamber.
Yeah.
And educated empathy is so important.
Yeah. Now, Sam, what can we say to our audience who's mostly Christians?
Hi, Christians.
How can we love people who, are
Yeah.
in the porn industry?
Absolutely.
And what is God's heart towards them?
I'll never forget this terrifying moment where I was on this bus of foreign press journalists. There was how many of them? 30?
Yeah, 30.
A charter bus. And they were doing a van tour, and all of them, they have microphones in my face. They're all from different backgrounds, different belief structures, different government structures. And one person said, "Oh, you're a Christian organization. Isn't prostitution a sin?" And I remember being so taken aback and feeling like I think this person was wanting me to say something potentially damaging. And I just felt the Lord remind me of the woman caught in adultery. And I feel like the way I responded and the way I respond to how do Christians love people in the porn industry is that Jesus' heart is always just grace, love, and bringing them to himself, even when they're at their most vulnerable. And his love was towards that person. His anger was towards the religious accuser, the person who was pointing at them in their most naked, vulnerable moment and calling for them to be stoned. And I think we should do the same. I believe that God's heart is so much less offended by someone who is just figuring it out versus someone who is spitting out vile hatred. So I think ways that we can love people who are in the industry is, number one, is listen. We can listen to them. Even if you disagree with us, we can listen to each other and say, hey, if we disagree, here's still the resources if you ever need them. And then we can not consume pornography because it's so damaging and it is supporting these big industries that are profiting off of these people.
Yeah, and that's really, as Christians, I don't remember what the statistic is, but more than half of people that attend church are watching porn, somewhat regularly.
Absolutely.
And at the same time, you would judge someone who is in porn, you wouldn't let them lead a small group or something like that. But at the same time, you're perpetuating this system of exploitation. And so, we all need grace. We
all absolutely need grace. And I think it's okay that I don't have the perfect answer for the system. I think we've found some great legislative, ideas, and we can speak out, based on statistics, based on amazing studies that have been done, what we think would be the right way forward. But at the end of the day, our main objective is love, is God's love, and reducing the amount of abuse and oppression that's happening And again, we see the whole system as being an oppressive system. But the people, we so love you. And if you're listening out there and you're involved in the industry, because I think a lot of you are believers, a lot of you are Christians, but I think there's others too. Some of you guys have messaged me personally to say, hey, I feel really judged. I feel really, that's really not our heart. And we're always here to listen, to talk, because a lot of times we just get message. I mean, I was on Viceland and Twitter, hated me.
Yeah.
Said that I was harassing people, that I was projecting my own issues. If you feel that way, let's sit down and have maybe in a few weeks after quarantine's over, or we can have a Skype and just talk to each other, and see where we can work together. I don't know. It's very difficult for me because I think I feel very empathetic towards the individuals, and just so brokenhearted when the hatred of, I think, some people who have a lot of prejudice or have a lot of misunderstanding has affected them feeling like they're welcome in our churches.
Yeah.
Or they're welcome in our small groups, or they're welcome at our human trafficking meetings.
Yeah, so as the world kind of awakens to the harms of pornography, I believe we're going to see a lot of people that are coming out of the porn industry, and really, they're going to have this whole process of rebuilding their lives. So how can we serve? As the church, how can we invite people with that sort of past?
Yeah, I think when someone has been in a certain lifestyle for a long time, they may not dress in a way that you're comfortable with or that you think is appropriate for church. So when people come in from different walks of life, don't judge them that seems like such an elementary thing, but you might just think, oh, this girl's wearing this dress or this heels, or who cares? Who cares? Accept them where they are, love them where they are, and realize that what better place for them to be. I truly believe there's going to be a huge, huge new church that's arising, that's coming out from these places. And it's going to be an amazing, amazing opportunity for the church to love people that don't look like them, because that's the body of Christ. And our first job is not to change the way that they look or to change the way that they talk or it's just to invite them and to allow Jesus to meet them. And we take our shoes off in their story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We don't just stumble into being like, okay, so what's your story? Tell your testimony. That's not ours. That does not belong to you. If you're like, oh my gosh, this is Tiffany, she was in the porn industry and now she's here, praise God. That's not your business. If anything, this is Tiffany and she has a great casserole recipe. Don't calm down with sharing people's business. You know what I mean? And then people who are business owners, you know what I mean? Yeah. We could maybe take a chance on someone who has a more, a different type of work history, so that they know, hey, there is opportunity for me. There is opportunity.
Yeah, and that's one of the major factors that causes trafficking to happen. It's not people being kidnapped or picked off the side of the street. It's really inability to find a job.
Survival.
Just survival. Yeah.
Yes, and nobody deserves that. Nobody deserves no opportunity, depending on what they look like and how comfortable it makes us. Our okayness and our comfort level should come from our own places of security, should come from the Lord. And we should be willing to expand and invite others, because I think that would be such a huge testimony to the love of God, to say hey, I don't know your whole thing. I don't know what your background is, but here's your skill set. And that's the kind of thing that I measure your ability to be a part of this job. Or here's your opportunity to learn and grow those things. I think churches, individuals, we should be ready just to receive people exactly where they're at and not stumble into the details of what their past is we just don't have a right to that.
Yeah, and really trauma, Your Body Keeps the Score on Trauma is the title of a book that I encourage all of you to read.
Yes.
An excellent book. And as we become more aware of trauma, you understand that this takes time to heal. It's not one day can pass and your trauma can be totally restored and you're restored to wholeness as an individual. Like it takes a lifetime, really.
It takes a lifetime, and I can't expect every church and every person to be ultra trauma informed overnight. But like a small thing is maybe ask somebody before you give them a hug.
Yeah.
If someone is in your church and you don't know them, say, "Hey, could I give you a hug?" And if they look uncomfortable, be like, "How about a air five?" Or how about, no. Because physical touch can be both healing and healthy and also very triggering. Just being aware of people's stories are not like your own. And let me tell you, you most likely have people who've survived sex trafficking or sexual abuse in your churches.
Yeah.
They don't, might have a picture in your mind, get rid of it. They look like everybody. They're men, they're women, they're, old, they're young. They look like all different types of people. And so if you kind of sit there and think, man, well, I'm not in a big city church, this doesn't affect me. I guarantee you it is in your environment. I've been to small churches and tiny towns outside of the city that call me a day later, oh my gosh, someone just came. This is a real story, happened about more than an hour outside of Houston. I went and spoke. Week later, oh my gosh, we just had someone come and she is coming down off drugs that her trafficker gave her. She's at our church asking for help. What do we do? So it does happen to us. So we just need to ready ourselves. And we hope to be a source to help with those situations. You can always call us too.
Yeah, so this is about all the time we had to discuss this topic, but we want to continue the conversation. So go on social media, send us a direct message.
Yeah, and comment. If you're on YouTube, comment down below, like, what do you think about some of the things we've talked about? What do you think are ways that we could better love people who are coming out of the industry or who are still in the industry? And how do you feel about any of the things that we shared about? Because we want to hear your voice so we know what kind of questions are being asked and what your feedback is.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to the Elijah Rising podcast. If you're hearing our voices or if you're seeing us here on YouTube, make sure that you sign the petition that's in our show notes or in the description down below. That really lets the world know about what we're saying about pornography, and it can make a huge, huge difference, especially with the amount of people that have jumped on. Let us know what you think about the things that we said. Comment down below or message us on any of our social media. You can reach us on Facebook, on Instagram, or on YouTube. We hope that you subscribe to our podcast because we're going to come out with new content every
2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you ring the bell. And then underneath the bell, put all so that every time we upload, you'll be notified. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.